Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by Pointsbet. Use the promo code CHGO when you sign up to live your bet life. I'm Luke Stuckmeyer, Cody Delmendo, Jared Wyllys in the house for the first time on the show, and via some sort of Zoom type thing, we've got our guy by popular demand, Brendan Miller, the pitch doctor, dialing in for another episode of the CHGO Cubs podcast. Guys, I want to let you know, first of all, on the way in, I was very excited today that I was so relieved. I got a phone call telling me that my warranty on my car insurance was about to run out, and I was so thankful that this wonderful woman called and told me about it today. It was like only the 100th time in the last 2 weeks that I got that call. So
I get like 10 of those a day.
It's just out of control.
I get lots of exciting opportunities like that too. Car warranties, student loans. They're always so helpful. They're reaching out to you, so enthusiastic about it. It really makes me feel special every time I get those calls.
And it should. We're not going to offer anything quite that special on the podcast, but we hope you're going to stick with us. We can't give you car insurance or warranties, but we do want to point out that the Cubs Cactus League game is getting underway, and as it does, Ian Happ is in the lineup to be DH for the first time. So, that on the surface, you would look and say, well, that's at least a positive step toward what he hopes is being ready for opening day. I don't know if that's still on the table or not, but it's at least good news to see him out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And when he set that timetable of, I want to be ready for opening day, this is definitely a positive sign in that regard. You want to see how he looks at the plate, how his swings look, how comfortable he appears to be today. But yeah, this is definitely a good thing for this Cubs lineup. However it's going to shake out this year, Ian Happ's going to need to be a centerpiece of that. So you want to see that he's healthy. You want to see what he can do.
Yeah, it's kind of a sigh of relief because last week I remember the news came out, and admittedly I was a little more than bummed. Not great, as one might say. So yeah, it's good to see him and Brennan Davis back on the lineup today. So
a sigh of relief.
The knee for Davis, get that little off day, and good to see him back in there. We'll see how they play, and hope, if we have to wrap some bubble wrap around him, so be it.
I was surprised. Yeah, I was surprised that he's in the lineup. In my mind, when I heard, clean up on elbow surgery, I'm thinking worst case scenario, he's not going to be ready by opening day. So it's good to see him out there, and the outfield situation is so crowded. You want Ian to get opportunities right away. Like, you don't know, if someone gets hot, Michael Hermosillo makes the team. You don't know what that does for Happ's immediate at-bats, whether he gets at-bats taken away or not. So it's good to see him, right now, he's already getting at-bats, ready to go for opening day. For me, like Cody said, sigh of relief.
I tell you what, first, I should have started the show with an apology to Brendan and Corey that I forgot to promote at the end of yesterday's show, that yet another live, you're going to forgive me?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I didn't promote at the end of the podcast that they were going to do their first ever live with video podcast on CHGO, just like they always do. And it was, if I had the fire emoji and 100% emoji, I would put them on the pod. I listened to it this morning. How did it feel being on camera for the first time with Corey? Had you ever seen him before?
Yeah, I've seen Corey, not doing podcasts, but on the West Coast, went to a few Cubs games together. But I knew when we started recording together on camera, I know, I can sense when Corey's not happy with what I'm saying. So the fact that I can see him now, his reaction is it validates everything that I was sensing doing these podcasts. So unfortunately, I get to see Corey give me those looks for, the foreseeable future, but it was fun. We've done this for so many years. It actually was more fun and easier to do it on camera, I felt like.
Yeah, and do it live, right? There's no chance. Who was it? Bill O'Reilly? Was he the?
Yes,
we'll do it live.
We'll do it live.
That's how we do it around here now.
That's right.
Oh, Corey, thank you.
I was nervous for the ad reads though. I was because they're so long to do. The Athletic Greens one, the Pointsbet one. I'm oh my god, I'm gonna mess up. I can't read on my phone. My phone is so small. So I thought I did a pretty good job. Maybe not as good as Cody and you, Luke, but I was proud of myself for that.
Nice of you to say.
Oh, it was a great podcast, and again, you can go back to allchgo.com, or you can go where you get your podcast. Make sure you subscribe, and it's the same place that you're getting this. They're all in there, and go back and listen to them out of order if you want to. They all still work that way until we get the season started. And going into today we were talking already about on your podcast a little bit, Willson Contreras headed to arbitration. It was just a day before that we were saying, hey, the Cubs should sign this guy. I in my opinion, that's someone that should be extended for the Cubs. Now they're going to arbitration, and I wonder if it's going to lead to more bad feelings when it comes to relating that towards whether or not they extend him. Is it going to bother Willson that they're haggling over this season, let alone seasons down the line?
Yeah, man. Like, I sent out a tweet last night where it was started as a joke, or at least when I hit send, it was a joke in my eyes, because I mentioned that the Ricketts flew to London to place this bid for the soccer team, and then said that, you know, this whole thing with Contreras and the Cubs not coming to agreement on arbitration. And then the last sentence was, it was a bad day for Cubs PR team. A lot of people, instead of, I don't know, just realizing that, hey, those two don't actually mean the same thing, I think they all actually really thought that both of them go together in a way when they really don't. And but I guess the point of me stating this is the replies were not great. They were so bad that I had to mute the tweet because I was so tired of reading all these negative tweets. But yeah, the reason people are negative, though, is I can understand. You know, the Sox guys were just on here talking about Lucas Giolito and being $200K apart. This is a little bit more. You know, the Cubs thought $9 million. Contreras and his camp think $10.25 million. For us, it's like, what's really the difference? Like, why can't we get this done? I think in the Slack channel last night, Brendan actually made a good point about how, you know, it's about setting the market or whatever for future guys down the road,
Sure.
I guess. And when he said that was like, oh, that's a good point. Like, I didn't really think of that at the time. But, yeah, no, either way, it was a bad PR day for the Cubs because, like, the whole Ricketts thing. And then also, like, the Cubs are not anywhere near the luxury tax. Like, what's the big deal in giving Willson the $10 million and just calling it a day, especially if you are serious about extending him and you know, making him a Cub for the next 4 or 5 years. So that's kind of like my 2 cents on it. Is like this is just another thing. I hope it all gets figured out and, you know, whatever, but I don't feel great about it right now.
Well, and I think, too, about what Willson had to say back in July when Javi was traded, Rizzo was traded, Chris Bryant was traded. His immediate comments were, okay, build the team around me. Mm-hmm. You know, the next winning group of players, start with me and build from there. So he's been pretty clear about, you know, he wants to stay here. He's invested in what's happening here, even going through a little bit of a rebuild, whatever this phase is that we're in right now. So he wants to do that, and so it feels a little bit like why nickel and dime the guy? Why insult the guy in a way when he has expressed that this is something that he wants? And you can see it when you watch some of these interviews here in these last couple of days. You can see it. He's not happy right now because of being in this situation.
And I believe we have a couple of those interviews that were posted on Twitter. I know Maddie Lee posted on Twitter a Contreras interview. Should we start with that, Joey, and then do David Ross? Let's hear what Willson Contreras had to say today about it.
Expected to happen? Just kind of what's your thoughts?
Actually not. Like I said before, there was really short time to negotiate. We couldn't get into agreement, but like I said, I'm happy to be here. I'm looking forward to play baseball, and that's one thing that I can control.
What's going to be the key to not be distracted by any of that during the season here?
Have fun with my guys. I think I love my team. I love the Cubs. I love my teammates, and my main focus right now is to play baseball, to stay healthy, stay on the field. That's the only thing that I can control.
Disappointment not to get a deal? Is this kind of what you expected to happen? Just kind of what's your thoughts?
Actually not. Like I said before, there was really short time to negotiate.
So, I would agree with him. It is a shorter time, and obviously he's trying to sugarcoat it a little bit, I would think, to just try and smooth it over, because I'm sure he was told at some point, like, hey, Twitter and fans, and this is kind of blowing up to be a big deal. People aren't happy.
Right.
If you feel that way, smooth it over a little bit. And then David Ross was asked about it too. Clearly he would be like, this is your one remaining position player along with Jason Hayward from the World Series team, and nobody knows what's going to happen. But he's certainly a fan favorite. Do we have the David Ross from Jordan Bastion? Let's listen to this real quick.
It seems Wilson's in a good headspace. I don't know that even I've seen him in such a good place since I've been here. He seems eager to lead, to set an example. He understands, he's going to make a lot of money either way, I think, and the details get worked out. His job is just to go play, can't control any of those extra factors. I think he said all those things out loud, which is, I know he's told you guys he's in a good place, and I think just watching and being around him for a long time, he's in a really good spot. Wilson's in a good headspace.
So, I mean, obviously, I think the one thing about what David Ross and Willson are saying is, I think you could go to Willson and say, listen, I know this isn't the way you want the offseason to go. If you're David Ross, go about your business. He knows him well. They were teammates together. So explain it and say, listen, it could be worse. You could be Lucas Giolito this morning, and you could be waking up $50,000 apart. And for some, I want to start a GoFundMe for that guy.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the good thing though, if I'm looking for maybe a little bit of a
silver lining.
Silver lining here is Willson. And this isn't the first time that he's dealt with distractions of this type, and he talked about it being some trade rumors a couple of years ago. He mentioned he had a harder time with that a couple of years ago. So I think having done that, then now this year he's a little better at okay, I know what to do to tune this out. I can deal with this, because the reality is it's either going to be we're talking about, is he getting an extension, or frankly, is he getting traded at the trade deadline? Because if he's not extended, that really is the only other logical move that the Cubs can make is trade him come July or so. And a lot of that might have to do with they're going to wait to see how the season goes, where are we at, how are things going. But so he's going to be dealing with this for a while.
Yeah, I mean, and while a lot of people are not necessarily optimistic about it, is very justifiable considering last year. Then also the fact that they haven't had a chance to really sit down with him now, even I guess before the lockout, and we're in spring training. He says that Jed's out there still signing guys. So I'm not optimistic about them sitting down with him before the season, and he's already said that he's not really trying to talk about it in season. So my hope is that he just comes out guns a-blazing, and I don't know, if the Cubs want to extend him, then maybe they just let him play the entire season and they try and figure it out in the offseason, this coming offseason. I mean, I know in terms of a baseball move, that isn't the right move to do. But again, unless they really sit down with him sometime within the next 2 weeks, it's just
right.
What else are they going to do? Unless his value just isn't there, and they're not going to get anything important anyway. And then the Cubs kind of think, well, maybe we can get him at a discounted price compared to now, even though let's face it, it's not that big of a deal right now considering they're nowhere near that luxury tax. But that's just kind of where I'm at. That's why I feel like they need to get this done soon.
Well, here's another reason that I was thinking, and Brendan, tell me if I'm wrong about this. They avoided a disaster last year by going on a massive losing streak, because had they been in first place and then traded all of those core players,
oh boy,
I mean, there would have been fires, seriously, dumpster fires around Wrigley Field.
Oh yeah.
So let's play out that scenario again this year. Let's say the Cubs are in first place or tied for first or a game out, and Willson Contreras is having a good season, but they know they're not going to re-sign him or extend him. That's going to be really hard for the Cubs at that point not to extend him, because what are you going to do? Take your star catcher and be like, we're in first place. We decided to trade him and start the rebuild even more. They avoided it last year. I don't know if it'll happen this year.
They did. I mean, to Jared's point, though, I feel as if Willson has mentally prepped for this for multiple years. Just on social media, whether it's his Instagram or Twitter, he sometimes passively hints at this type of situation. And he just saw like all of his teammates for the last half decade get traded and go through this process. So if I'm Willson, I'm thinking that's the likely outcome. How can you think any differently? Because right now the competitiveness of this team is kind of hit or miss. Like, Luke, if they're in first place and we're talking about a Willson trade come the deadline, like, first off, I'll be happy because we're in first place, but the likelihood that happens seems relatively slim. And from Jets' perspective, there's a lot that needs to be known this year. What do we have with Nico at shortstop? What do we have with Madrigal at second base? Patrick Wisdom, Frank Schwindel, and that might inform whether or not the front office wants to extend Willson. If people don't perform this well, then maybe that competitiveness for 2023, no one wants to hear it, but maybe that gets kind of pushed back a little bit as a worst case scenario. So from the front office's perspective, they may want to see how the rest of the roster pans out before they even engage with thinking realistically about Willson long term.
And while I do agree with what you guys are saying, that Willson has prepared himself mentally for this for a couple years, I also believe that he's the most emotional player in that clubhouse. And if it brought Chris Bryant to tears when he was traded finally, even though he had been probably prepared for it for 3 years at least, imagine what that will eventually, he may be prepared, but I think it's going to eventually start to really eat him up throughout the season. I could be wrong. You could prep yourself mentally for something like that, but when you're emotional like that, that's your personality, it's easier said than done to just do the right.
Even more so if he's having a good season, but
Correct.
The Cubs aren't. And Brennan makes a good point about, finding out about these players, Horner, Madrigal. You're trying to – we mentioned Ian Happ, like the inconsistencies in recent seasons. Like, is he going to put together a full season? Like, all these questions. And that's why part of me is like, oh, if these guys who I just mentioned actually show up and perform, not necessarily light years ahead of what we expect, but just better than what we really truly expect, this team could win 70 or 75, 80 games, something like that. Maybe be a 500 team. I mean, Luke, when we were just sitting over there 2 hours ago, you're like, this team's going to win 60 games. I'm like,
no, I said there's a possibility they could win 65 games.
Right.
There's a question mark at literally every position other than catcher.
For sure. And again, rightfully so, right? But if, like what Brennan said, like if we watch these guys play out and we learn a little bit more about them, then it does put the Cubs in a more beneficial position to go to Willson and be like, okay, we see you here. We see this rebuild happening faster than we may have originally thought, I guess. But
70 is a good mark to put it at, just to guess right now.
Right.
There's a pretty healthy range of what could happen with this team.
Huge range.
But I think, too, with you mentioned the question marks at every position, the other thing that we need to ask ourselves is how many of these guys are, no matter how they perform, how many of these guys are long-term guys for the Cubs anyway? Say Frank Schwindel has a great season, Patrick Wisdom has a nice season. Are these guys that we're talking about building around, or is it just going to be, hey, remember that 1 year when Schwindel hit a bunch of homers? Because I think that's the other part that's going to play a role in any kind of Contreras contract talks is how much of our roster is really what we want it to be for 23, 24 going forward.
Brandon on the chat is saying, by the way, Jared's beard is even better on a live stream.
Yes.
You look great,
better
Jared.
on a live stream.
Thank you.
As someone sitting right next to him, I would agree. It is fantastic.
I trimmed it this morning just for this.
Do you have some beard oil in that as well?
I sure do. Yeah.
No,
You got to keep it, keep it tidy.
You look good.
Oh yeah.
So getting a lot of love for the beard here. I don't want to sit on Contreras too much because I think that is getting beaten up a little bit. But it's an important storyline for the Cubs. Less important, but just as much fun would be the team slogan coming out today. Every time one of these comes out, fans just go crazy on Twitter. So we put a Twitter poll out there. We asked, the new slogan, by the way, is "It's different here" for the Cubs this season. So we put on the CHGO Cubs Twitter handle a poll of the most recent 5 or 6 season campaigns that they put out there, which one do you like the most? And last time I checked, the voting was pretty even, right? We almost to 1,000 votes now.
Let's see.
Everybody Cub together. That's Cub, and it's different here.
Yeah, we got about 800 some votes.
Everybody
Looks like Joey's logged into the Bulls account. He just voted for him.
I like everybody in. So
it's different here is winning?
What?
No, everybody in.
Everybody in was good.
Here's some of the other mentions. Some of them are unofficial Maddenisms, but they count.
Yeah.
Try not to suck.
Right. That was my favorite.
We are good. That was a good one.
Yeah, that was Miggy.
Yeah. That I think is my favorite.
We are good.
Yeah.
Not sure about this one. Okay. Those are most of our replies, but
the other ones they had.
Those were
Wasn't
good.
Let's Go one of them? Right.
Let's Go was not great.
Yeah.
Embrace the Target I liked from Madden.
That was a good one too. Yeah. It's different here. Just kind of carries a different connotation now than perhaps it would have a couple of years ago when they were still competitive. It sort of feels like, I don't know who signed off on this one.
Yeah, it's different here makes you say like, sorry, Brendan. It's like it's saying it's different here. Javi's gone, KB's gone, Rizzo's gone. Like there's a couple ways you could play that, and I think that's what is setting Twitter on fire today.
Right, all the things you liked about the team are
it's different.
Or Spin Zone, it could just be a nice little shout out to our guy Dom Frederick, who tweets it all the time. So
that is true, and I mean there is no question that it is different at Wrigley Field no matter what's going on.
Right,
that's true. Roster wise, I mean the stadium is so much different than it was even 6-7 years ago. The whole neighborhood. So yeah, it's a lot has changed. So I guess it's technically objectively true.
They set themselves up for it, right? Like you knew if you're going to have that slogan, the response you're going to get without having Javi and KB and Rizzo and everything. So like, yeah, I don't know who signed off on it, but you had to have expected that some fraction of fans would have responded exactly how we saw. So.
I will, on devil's advocate, I will say this. It's not like I have another one that's popped into my head since it came out where I'd be like, that's the one I'd go with.
Right.
You know?
Right, yeah.
Because we're just trying to get through this probably doesn't inspire the same.
Stick with us.
Yeah.
Stick with us, yeah.
Please keep buying tickets. Yeah. I don't know.
You know, it's different here. I'm glad they didn't go with that in like the 80s when I was a Cubs fan because it was different.
There was a lot of replies of the We Stinks, Carlos
Zambrano in Milwaukee.
Yeah, a little
all-time
callback to
quotes.
Big Z back in the day. I like that.
Yeah, We Stinks was been used a lot.
Yeah.
And Brendan, did you have a favorite on that list? Who are you voting for? Did you vote on the poll yet?
Yeah, I liked everybody in, kind of like nostalgic there a little bit. So I like it. I mean, like Let's Go, I think was 2015 Let's Go was, or maybe was it 2016 when they won the World Series? I forgot what it was, but I know maybe of those two, I don't know. They're the least harmless, right? Like people made fun of Cub Together as well as they made fun of this current one. So it's trying to limit their responses like that.
I will say this, that I am surprised on the poll that That's Cub is not in last because we purposely put that in there because we thought everyone hated that one.
Right. No, I mean, That's Cub had the same type of problem in that it was.
I think it's harder to get a good one now that they've won the World Series. When we hadn't won it, they could just do believe it's gonna happen.
Right.
This is the year.
And that was
those were good. I saw This Is the Year. I was like, maybe this is the year.
That's true. It's going to happen was just a fan with a sign, right?
Right.
That's how that started.
It was an informal one, but That's Cub is another one that for a while there that was a point of pride. That's Cub, but then that took a turn on us. So it's still That's Cub. It just feels different saying that now.
It was turned on them for sure.
I definitely see it in the replies on Cubs tweets or whatever. Anytime there's some kind of negative story going around. So
That's Cub.
Somebody was just saying they believed that We Are Good was actually 2015.
I think so.
It kind of came back a little bit. So
that
maybe
sounds right.
So that's not. I would put that in my list if I was voting on a poll. I'd put that in the consideration if we had a write-in vote.
I thought it really was just a Miggy thing.
Well, I think it was just the Miggy thing.
That's what I thought too. But maybe it was the 2015.
I mean,
slogan.
I remember it's burned in my mind because Miggy, I think on Instagram, he showed a picture of him and Jake Arrieta like during a rain delay in Pittsburgh with like "We Are Good" and kind of took off from there. So I think it was like just a Miggy thing, but maybe I'm wrong.
I saw Corey tweeting out the Kelly Crawl where she was doing a post-game interview with, I think, Arrieta.
Yeah.
And
he just
Miggy jumps in and is screaming, "We are good, we are good," as the champagne is flying in the background.
Man, 2015 was like my favorite year as a Cubs fan.
Well, it was so surprising for Cubs fans that they were actually really postseason
really
competitive.
Yeah.
And I think it may have been the last just fun season for the Cubs. 2016 was exciting
fun,
and
but
fun in a
there was
different
pressure.
way, but there was pressure. Yeah.
Sure.
So 2015 was just like, this is unexpected. We weren't thinking that this was going to happen, and now here they are. You get that second half from Arrieta that year.
For sure.
The way they rolled through the first 2 rounds of the playoffs.
The call-ups, I still remember Bryant's call-up on April 17th. Russell and all of them that were part of that.
You memorized the date there. You know the exact date.
Oh, yeah.
See, I'm terrible at that.
There's a reason that I
problem.
tweeted that video of me yelling about the Rockies signing Chris Bryant, Brennan. Like,
I know.
This guy.
We got Dairy Farmer in the comments saying
Dairy Farmer, all right.
Brewers own the Cubs. All right, Dairy Farmer, thanks for stopping
Sounds
by.
like someone from Wisconsin. Can't even spell own. Jeez.
Wrigley North. Hey, the best way to support CHGO is to download the PointsBet app and use the code CHGO when you sign up. And if you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you'll receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of our web content. Jared will be contributing and has been already. Brendan's contributing. Ryan's contributing. We'll all jump in there eventually. And you'll even get a free shirt of choice from our CHGO locker. If you have any questions, email pointsbet@allchgo.com and we'll help you out. Remember, PointsBet is your home for live in-game betting. They even have a new exclusive feature, the live NBA same-game parlay. For the first time ever, build the perfect live same-game parlay only with PointsBet. Combine your favorite bets anytime during the game. And now online sign-up is available right here in Illinois. You can actually download the PointsBet app right now and register your account start to finish all from your phone. I did it, so you can do it. Signing up with the fastest sportsbook is easier now than it ever has been. So start living your bet life in seconds. Use that code CHGO for 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. So what are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. How about
that was good.
Yeah.
Was that? I felt good about that, right?
Yeah.
That was really good.
What about, I feel like one of our other new partners, if I were to say to you, I like coffee, but coffee could be better, Cody. It's not just coffee. It's coffee with a little something extra.
Yeah. I mean, Strava Craft Coffee, let me tell you, it is.
You're a coffee guy.
As a coffee guy, I can endorse that this is some great stuff. So, Luke, do you ever feel anxious or jittery after you drink coffee?
Yes.
Okay. Jared, do you have trouble staying focused during the day or have trouble falling asleep at night?
The first one, yes, for sure.
Okay. Are aches and pains holding you guys back from enjoying your day to the fullest?
Another yes for me.
All right. Well, Strava Craft Coffee, fortified with the broad spectrum hemp-derived CBD, has already helped thousands of people to improve their overall quality of life by simply enjoying a delicious cup of Strava coffee. Strava Craft Coffee is a premium CBD-infused coffee that is exclusively sourced and roasted from premium specialty-grade coffee beans. The infusion of CBD adds so many benefits like help with chronic headaches, joints pain, IBS, and so much more.
There's no question mark there, Cody. IBS. When you have it, you
IBS,
know
guys.
it.
You know.
You don't need to
Great.
question it.
You're doing great.
Yeah, keep going.
No coffee jitters if you want 3 or 4 cups a day. Feel less anxious throughout your day. Live your day with Fewer aches and pains. Feel alert and focused without the jittery feeling. Relax and distress after a long day. Enjoy a more restful sleep. Strava also offers CBD-infused decaf coffee, which is a perfect way to relax in the evening, and a nighttime full-spectrum CBD tinctures? Is that how you say it? Tinctures. Which helps promote more restful, rejuvenating sleep. I cannot talk, guys. I'm so sorry.
So that's why you need to get some Strava in
exactly.
Get this guy a cup.
Oh my goodness. So if that's more down your alley, take advantage. Again, it's really great stuff. You can also subscribe and save with Strava Coffee Club. Strava's customized subscriptions mean you never have to buy coffee in the store again. It'll land on your doorstep every 2, 4, 6, or 8 weeks, whatever you prefer. Plus, you receive up to 30% off your CBD-infused coffee every time. Strava also offers CBD-infused decaf coffee to help you enjoy more restful sleep. Full spectrum CBD tinctures.
I think
to get the maximum entourage of benefits. Oh my goodness. The best part, Strava roasts fresh and ships straight to your door. CHGO listeners can save 25% off their entire purchase when you use code CHGO25. That's 25% off your entire order at StravaCraftCoffee.com when you use code CHGO25 at checkout. Discount coupon valid on non-subscription purchases only. 1 use per customer. That was the first time I read that, so I will practice that before the next time.
But you know what? Listen, first of all, it's said in there in the read, and you're describing it. It's perfect. Anxiety and IBS, those go hand in hand. If you got one, you got the other. You know what I'm saying?
Sometimes causes the other.
Yeah. Right, or cause the other. So the Strava helps out. And I just said to Joey when we walked in, I said, I feel like Cody's IBS and anxiety have improved a little bit recently. Have you noticed that in the office? And he said, well, that's because he started up on Strava a few weeks ago.
There you go.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to make sure to have some before I have to do the show tomorrow. That way I don't have any stress and anxiety going into this.
Or IBS.
I might need to try one of these ad reads. I think I could.
Joey
rock
wants to do one tomorrow.
Ad read. Maybe I'll do it the Strava one tomorrow. Producer, we'll check to make sure that's fly with the Denver folk. But
you're marked down.
I mean, to be fair though to Cody's, that looked like a difficult read. Like if I have to read that myself, now I'm a little nervous about it. I may have to practice that. That was a long one, so I empathize with you, Cody.
Well, there were some $5 words in there. I mean, that's
tinctures.
Yeah, I mean that's.
I love
to
this.
Be fair.
I love this comment saying Grandpa Stuckey should have let Cody borrow his readers.
That's from Lawrence right over there.
Right here, they're right here. They're 1.25s from Walgreens. Don't knock them till you've had them.
Oh man,
Cody, you're entitled to those. I believe Grandpa Stuckey bought those with the money he earned from his first ever parlay.
That's why I profited $9.09. These were a little bit more than that, but I
chip away.
Put it towards them. All right, let's talk a little pitching. Before I say we start pitching, we have a little surprise for Brendan. We have something a little special.
Really?
He's like, what?
Because I don't know if you people know, but the pitch doctor is in the house.
Look at that.
Look at that. Huh?
You have to send me that. That's unbelievable.
Yes, science. Huh? We're working on getting some stinger music in there, but I like the beaker in one hand, the rubber gloves in the other, the baseball.
It's good stuff.
And we're tinkering with some music. Would you like it to be heavy metal music? Would you like it to be the Grey's Anatomy theme? What type of music would you like if you were choosing it?
Man, I think the Grey's Anatomy theme is perfect.
Can we dig that? I don't know what that is, but if we can dig that up, that would go with the pitch doctor or Doc Miller every time he comes in.
The pitch doctor shirt. There you go.
Oh, yeah, we need a
ER. ER is another one, a famous.
Oh, yeah, ER.
Well, what is it, Chicago MD or one of those ones? They had like 17 shows for Chicago Fire, MD, Political, Chicago Garbage Collection, Chicago Red Light Cameras.
Chicago Park
If Cody
District.
can't read the Strava coffee read. How's he going to start saying seam shifted wake?
I practiced that like for 5 minutes. I'm still going to mess it up probably at some point, but that's hard to say. So,
I would slip and say, say something that would have to be beeped out, I think. So
Yeah.
honestly, so when I do the ad reads, like when I see the word shirt, sometimes, some words can slip out when doing it live. That's my fear. So
that's okay. It's not like we're completely PG here.
No, success is a bad one to say too. So let's talk about Justin Steele. That's someone we heard from on yesterday's podcast. He was talking to Ryan Herrera, telling us about, the routine he's getting into. He's just here to get guys out is his slogan going into the season, which I like that. We could get that on a shirt. What can you tell us, Pitch Doctor, about Mr. Steele and why he might be effective or need improvement somewhere?
Yeah, so let's throw up his spin act perfect. Joey, you're reading my mind. I love this. So if we look on the lefts, you see those huge red bars. Those are his fastballs. You look on the right, that's his same graph, but shown in the actual way it moves. So you see it's right at 12 o'clock. This is a clock. That means his fastball has a lot of rising action to it, and his active spin rate for his fastball is really good. His overall spin rate is in the 90th percentile. So his four seam is awesome. The way you may want to improve this is to get that curveball maybe a little bit more closer to like 6 o'clock. That's what Rowan Wick does with that spike curveball action. So another thing to notice, that sinker, if you look on the left graph, you see those orange bars are right on top of the red bars. On the right, though, you see those orange bars shift towards 10 and 11 o'clock. That is your seam shifted wake that we're talking about. So if we throw up his location heat map graph now, I think we can do that.
In our listening just the audio podcast, it's pretty clear what he's talking about. Just picture a clock, and he's telling you exactly where you're seeing that in the zone.
Yeah. So if we look at his heat map, he started throwing sinkers up and in to batters, which is what we've seen with Kyle Hendricks. We've seen this with Tommy Nance. We've seen this with Adbert Alzolay. So this is an actual heat map of Jacob deGrom. We can use this as a comparison. deGrom is probably the best pitcher I personally have seen. So he's targeted with that fastball up and in, perfectly. And that slider for deGrom, same thing. There's very little variation in those two pitches. Now, if we look at Steele, which is what you're looking at now, and again, if you're just listening to this on the feed, you can go to YouTube and see all this. So if you look at the top left, Steele's fastball is really variable, and the majority of his fastballs are kind of like center cut. That kind of needs to be improved a little bit because he has so much rise on it. And we just saw for deGrom, you can see he's so good with his command. Steele may need to improve that command a little bit, but you can also see on the second to the right picture is a sinker heat map. You see, again, some variability there as well. There's still a lot of sinkers up and in. This is all to say, if that command improves, he has natural carry on his fastball four seam. He has natural seam shifted wake on his two seam, and his slider, pretty good for a command point of view. The curveball is where you may see hopefully may see some improvement to add another pitch. Maybe a spike curveball gets added to that based on that type of four-seam profile that Rowan Wick has. So for me, I'm looking at, one, does he continue to throw sinkers? And two, does he optimize that curveball in a way where he starts throwing it more, and his slider, which has more movement than 50% of lefties, maybe that also has a benefit as well. So I'm excited about Steele. Ultimately, I think that the command needs to sharpen up a little bit, but his stuff is so good. He throws fast, big lefty, multiple pitches. I'm excited about him.
All right, so there it is, the Pitch Doctor. Now we would bring the graphic up with the music next time. Maybe it's a bubbling beaker we hear there.
Yes, I like that.
Somebody wants the Alice in Wonderland music underneath that. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I have to be honest. I don't know what that sounds like. So need some help there. But
I will say though, related to Justin Steele, I think I saw a tweet today on the CHGO Cubs Twitter account. You should go follow it if you don't. I think it was from the UK Cubs fans Twitter account on the timeline.
Really?
And they tweeted out a screenshot of what the MLB.com envisions the Cubs starting rotation opening day is. And it doesn't include Justin Steele. I think it's Alec Mills and Drew Smyly as one of the last two spots. And I replied to it on the account saying they're sleeping on Justin Steele. And I feel like we now need to send this clip to MLB and tell them, hey, you should learn more about this guy.
Right.
The
he's just here to get guys out.
Yeah, he's here to get guys out and throw fast, it seems like.
Or maybe keep it a secret and just play it cool. Don't
That's
tell
right.
anybody.
That's fair, too.
We don't want them knowing.
That's an excellent point.
Even if he doesn't start, like he may just piggyback out of the pen for multiple innings as well. And then maybe if he does start, Drew Smyly or Alec Mills piggybacks as well. I think we're going to see a lot of multiple inning outings this year, especially out of that 4th and 5th rotation spot. So I think regardless whether it's out of the rotation or out of the bullpen, he's going to get initially a chunk of innings that I think we'll all be comfortable with.
Where do you think Givens fits into this mix? Is he a guy that might see some closing time? Possibly. Is somebody that could fit into that mix?
Yeah, I mean, he's a hard thrower, right? He has some recent success. I think David Ross came out today. He doesn't want to put labels to these roles. So for Givens, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets opportunities. I have no preference right now who gets that 9th inning shot. There's a lot of possible options. I think ultimately Rowan Wick would be cool to see him in that spot, but there's still some concerns if he can hold that down per se, just given some of the injuries he's coming back from. But if I were to bet out of the gate, Rowan Wick is probably going to get those chances. And also, don't sleep on Manny Rodriguez as well. He throws triple digits. He got those chances last year in August. So there's a lot of possibilities there.
I'm into camp looking like a unit.
He's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, massive.
Yeah.
He already looked like a big dude last year, but the pictures I've seen this year, he looks like he. They said they're not testing for steroids for a reason from whatever date that was in January or something. I felt like
Beep that out. Yeah. Can we just erase that from the podcast, Joey?
He's been using the athletic greens.
Yeah, it's probably
AG1. Yeah, that's good stuff. Let me tell you.
Good segue. Look at that.
I did want to address this with. This is a good group to address this with. I have heard the term, and as an elderly gentleman. Shove, this pitcher shoved. How should I be using that? And when is it appropriate? I hear the young kids saying he's going to shove or he shoved. In what way is that usable?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I should answer this because I think
answer this?
I'm closer.
There's a little gray in that perfect beard.
I was going to say,
right?
So.
I think a good time to say when this pitcher shoved is when, I don't know, someone like Marcus Stroman goes out there, pitches 6-7 innings, strikes out 5 or 6, and allows 1 or 2 runs.
Then he shoved.
And yes.
Pitch doctor, is that something you approve of if I would start using
Cody
that?
nailed it. That's what it is. He goes out and shoves, shuts down a lineup, 6+ innings, he shoves.
Now, if Jared were going to write that in one of his posts, would it be SHOVES or is it SHUVVS? Shoves.
Ooh.
I might try the latter.
Yeah,
just see
if it gets attention.
Yeah, what do people think?
That's fair.
Interesting. I wanted to clarify that because I've heard it now on many podcasts. I hear the kids around the building saying it all the time, and I didn't know what the hell they were talking about for the first time.
Well, I'm glad, Luke, I'm glad you're able to understand this because I'm never going to try to explain what being ratioed on Twitter is to you again.
He taught me about ratioing today.
Wait, today's your first time you learned about ratioing?
That's the first time I heard about ratioing, and I told Cody that I understood 8/16 of what he was saying.
Yeah.
But I'd never heard of somebody being ratioed before.
Well, it might be a good sign. It means maybe you never have that.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
good that I haven't been ratioed?
Yes, it's very good that you haven't been ratioed.
Listen, I'm sure I've been ratioed many times. I just didn't know that was what they were calling it.
Corey confirms on Twitter, he confirmed that you have good takes all the time, so you don't get ratioed.
I taught you about the chocolate shake at the Wiener Circle, and you taught me about being ratioed. So
who taught you about the emojis, the 100 emoji and the fire?
Oh, that's just from watching Twitter a lot. I see the hot emojis, the flame, and the one. There was about a good year where people started using that red 100 on there instead of.
So you wrote that down somewhere, like.
Well, I put it in my Trapper Keeper in my notebook of thoughts.
Yeah. You pull that Velcro open on the Trapper.
You Velcro the side. You put some stickers on the back of it. You don't need any other books you need to take, and it's 100% fire.
Well said, Luke.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you guys can just shove.
The last
you don't like
5 minutes have just been the greatest moment of my life. This is.
If you don't like
stuff.
it, you can all just go shove. Is that another way that I can use that?
I think that's the way we used to use it, right? Like,
that's the way we used to
shove it.
Yeah. You can go shove. All right. Speaking of shove, Jock Peterson was good on Twitter. He put out a tweet basically sticking it to some of these teams, specifically the Guardians, the Pirates, and the Orioles, who have a payroll of $35 million, $35 million, and $30 million. And he basically went out and said, hey, this isn't good enough. If you can't do better than this for a payroll, sell your franchise to somebody that is willing to do it. And I'm glad a player stood up and said it. Like there may be ulterior motives for players saying that, but fans want to say that too. Like, that's not fair to the players or the fans in that city.
Well, especially when you have, we talked about this before the show, but you have multiple players, I think, but at least Max Scherzer, who single-handedly will make more this year than entire teams.
Right. And Correa, I said, was the other one, right?
Yeah,
$35 million. He's right there with those two.
And I know that Dallas Keuchel and the White Sox also sort of in an, offhanded remark made reference to Cleveland and just said, hey, I wish they'd pay their players more. So there are multiple guys who are speaking up that have something to say about this because – as players, I think there's a little bit of a frustration with, you see some teams that are really investing heavily in their rosters, and then other teams, it's like, it's kind of a joke, and it's really sort of insulting, especially to those fan bases. And a solution for that, that's a hard thing to come by, but it almost feels like you need a salary floor and tell teams that this is the minimum standard, this is the bar that you have to clear, because you can't have a $30 million payroll, and then in the same division, there's a guy making 35 just by himself.
Right.
Well, the flip side of that is when you have a $200 million payroll and you lose a series or get swept by a team that has a $35 million payroll, your fans are going to burn it down.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, they're not happy when you lose to those teams. And that's what makes baseball great is that can still happen.
It's similar Cubs-Marlins.
Yeah.
2020. If you want to count the 2020 postseason, I still don't, but, that's just me as one person.
Hey, do you have Cody, you got a pick of the week?
Ooh,
a PointsBet pick of the week for us?
We are, whoever last week when we did the PointsBet pick of the week, you took Notre Dame +4 last week. They beat Alabama outright. So we were 1-0 in our last picks of the week for PointsBet. Tonight, I like Nets money line against, I believe it's the Grizzlies. Katie and Kyrie with no Ja Morant for the Grizzlies. I like it. Nice. Kyrie's birthday. So there's your narrative for it. I do love me a good narrative bet. So, yeah. And since they're not in New York, Kyrie will play. So
yeah. He likes a flat birthday cake, not a round one.
Yeah, there's no candles in his cake. There's no candles. They light
no candles.
They light
it's
sage.
A flat sheet cake. There's nothing round about his cake at all.
He bundles up some sage and lights that in the cake instead.
If you want to, I'll just throw this one out too. On the bet show, we had Greg Boyson come on and talk a little Blackhawks with us today, and he's high on the over on Blackhawks Ducks tonight. So,
Blackhawks Ducks.
Yeah.
And that's because they traded their goaltender, I wonder? Or?
I think so, or basically surrounding a lot of that.
Yeah. So the other thing going on in Major League Baseball the last 24 hours is the new rules are sort of becoming official for this season, right? The 28-man roster going through May 1st, which can we all agree that's a good thing? Like especially with only 3.5 weeks of spring training.
It's going to help prevent injuries. I think that's a really smart move, especially for pitchers. These guys' arms are not going to be in the same condition they normally would be in. I think it's absolutely the right move. Expand those rosters for the first month. Protect these guys as much as you can.
I think it's a good thing for the Cubs. It's especially good for David Ross, who really doesn't have probably a handle on who he's playing on a consistent basis necessarily in left field, in center field, in right field, at shortstop, at third, at first. He's got some options now, and he can start to maybe, we were saying earlier, like, one problem with having this slew of relievers and all the extra infielders is that how do you balance enough playing time to evaluate that, like who's the good guy? At least this allows you to make it sort of like a spring training game, and that you can mix and match a little more earlier in the season and maybe get a better feel for it before you just kind of eliminate somebody from the rotation.
Yeah, I mean, again, we have so many guys that we just don't know about,
right?
That like we can pencil in. Except for Suzuki, I think he's going to get, he's going to get consistent at bats, and Ian Happ should get consistent at bats too. Probably Schwindel and Wisdom, but then after that, it's kind of like we got a lot of guys here that we can move around. So just having those,
plus it makes it more
spots.
fun too. I mean, to have more opportunities to see these guys, like the injury concern is valid, especially coming off the 2020 season where guys did get injured. They changed the balls. Some of the pitchers didn't like that. Some, I think Tyler Glasnow even said that it kind of contributed to one of his injuries. So there's been a sensitive period for the last 2 years. Having 28 guys seems like a no-brainer. And then from a fan's perspective, my perspective, I want to see David Ross shift around some of these guys and try to figure out what works and what doesn't work. So I think it's awesome.
You said shift around, correct?
Shift around, yes.
Okay, just making sure. There was some noise on the other side of the room, and I just wanted to clarify. Shift.
Well, now I'm going to, I got shirt and shift. I'm going to have to start, mentally,
I got another one. When a guy has a disc problem in his back, make sure you always clarify it.
You can't put these thoughts in my mind.
I'm just going to tell you, this is a piece of advice. This is 30 almost years of TV experience. Yes. Never say that word. Just say he has a back problem.
Oh, yeah.
He's got a bad back. Everybody knows that's what's in the back, so you don't have to say that's the specific part of the back. He's got a bad back.
Somebody with a bulging disc.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That could go south on you.
I've heard it go south many times, and just go with the bad back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you for
word advice.
I'm learning so much here.
Word advice. So what do you guys like the double or the not the doubleheader rules necessarily? I guess let's go to the doubleheader rules. Back to 9 innings. I do like that. I was not for the 7-inning game because it was just seemed like a farce. You had a guy pitching a no-hitter, and then what are you going to call it? A 7-inning no-hitter? I agree with that one, right? Like,
that's another one, kind of like the expanded rosters, that just feels like it's an easy decision. It's the right thing to do. Back to 9 innings. I like it.
It was fine for a shortened season, but I don't think it's right now. Now, the ghost runner in extra innings is much more controversial in my mind for people. They either want normal extra innings or they're fine with let's get this over. And I feel like players aren't as into the ghost runner at second. Pitchers certainly are not into the ghost runner at second base. But you know what? Everybody's numbers are going to be adjusted. I'm one of the people for it. I know that's surprising that the old guy is going to go for the ghost runner. The games are too long. And if you can speed it up that way, move it along.
From my understanding, it's just for 2022. I don't think it's
No. It's not like a permanent like forever rule, but like this season there
for
would be
1
ghost
year,
runners.
fine. So, this is my thoughts on this. Is what's been on my thoughts for this rule or whatever since they started it. Basically, when the Cubs benefit from it, I love it. And when they don't, I hate it. So it's like, it reminds me of the shift. When the Cubs could beat the shift or somehow get through the shift, when the Cubs would, when they're on defense and the shift helped them get out of an inning with like the bases loaded or something, I'm like, I love the shift. But then whenever Schwarber hits a hard ball right through the, second and first base, right to someone out in the outfield, and they throw him out, then I hate the shift. You know what I mean? Right. So that's how I feel about this rule. It's like, okay, well, if the Cubs can win faster and, because they get a guy at second base on a single up the middle or whatever, then cool, we win the game. Like, I'll let it pass for one day. But the moment that they lose because of it, I'm out.
Is there ever a time you don't give a shift?
There's plenty of times I don't give a shift.
Well,
Just checking.
I think with this rule, I have two thoughts. I mean, one, as someone who has spent some long days in a press box,
yes.
I'm not opposed to something that just speeds the process along. So I'm okay with the idea of the runner, but what I have an issue with is we can't call it the ghost runner, because as someone who played a lot of pickup baseball games in people's yards, a ghost runner is when you don't have enough guys and you say there's a ghost runner on second, and you pretend as if there's a runner there. That's a totally different thing than this should be. I submit it should be called like the automatic runner. I had somebody on Twitter suggest to me the awarded runner, which sounds very prestigious, and I'm fine with that too. But yeah, we can't go ghost runner because
that's a great point.
It's a different thing.
Maybe like bonus guy, like a video game. You get a bonus player.
A bonus runner. Anything
bonus
like
runner.
that.
Yeah. Bonus runner works.
Manfred should give me a call sometimes. I've got decent ideas.
Look at all these ideas we came out with today.
And
Luke
what about
for commissioner?
Yes, that's right. What about the last one isn't necessarily just news today, but universal DH. I have come around to that. And then what's the Ohtani rule? That's just because of if he were to pitch.
So if he pitches and they take him out in the fifth inning, he gets to stay in the lineup. So
as the DH.
Yeah, as the DH. Yeah. And like right now, he's like the only one in my opinion or in my mind I can think of that does anything that he does. So.
And I think that's why they're calling it the Ohtani rule, because it's clearly something that's put in place for his benefit.
Right. As it should, because baseball needs
smart move.
They need him to play a full game.
Am I losing my mind? Did somebody say Suzuki used to pitch at some point? Say a Suzuki that at
96.
Throws 9. Yeah, he's got a really good arm. And I think at some point, I mean, let's say a lot of kids growing up, if they become Major League Baseballs, pitched at some point in their life.
Right, especially outfielders, third basemen. Usually those guys have big arms anyway.
Rizzo's the greatest reliever of all time. What are you talking about?
Oh, that's right.
He's true.
Is he still
0-0-0?
Is he still?
Yeah, 0 ERA.
Wow, that's impressive. Not many.
And he struck out Freddie Freeman.
That's right. He did strike out Freddie Freeman. I'm surprised he still got that contract after he struck him out like that. Right. Anything else that you could think of that the new rules or all those? I'm fine with them. Nothing. Yeah. None of those really bother me. Some years they came out with it, and I was like, "This is the stupidest thing ever." I feel like they've kind of come back to reality on it a little bit.
As far as the DH, all I can think about is all those times that we've watched the Cubs get some sort of rally going, and next thing you know, here comes Jose Quintana to bat with 2 outs and 2 guys on first and third, and the Cubs are down 1 run. And what does Jose Quintana do? He strikes out on 3 pitches. So yes, I'm very pro universal DH. Let's let the hitters hit and the pitchers pitch, man.
Agreed. Let's leave it at that. Brendan, we appreciate you coming on for the whole show. What is this? Is like Let's Play 2 live shows for you in 1 week?
I know. I feel like I'm a professional TV person now. I'm like you. I don't have 30 years of experience, but
I don't have a graphic yet. And by next week, if you want to do this, we're going to work at the graphic with the music, the stinger, the whole thing. I promise a complete package for that will be made and ready to go. But thanks for coming on today.
We're working on a graphic for you.
We're working on it?
We got it.
Oh, for me?
I'm brainstorming some ideas.
Boy.
That's
I
probably
can't
not
wait to see this.
Nice. I'm probably getting ratioed is what's happening there. Jared, thank you for coming in. First time. Great to meet you, and you're going to be a big part of this.
This was fun.
I'm moving throughout the season, Cody as well. And obviously, Ryan's going to be back tomorrow with his Hawaiian shirts. Mm-hmm. Corey Friedman going to be jumping back in the seat. He
Corey's
wants
coming
to.
in tomorrow?
Yeah, once he
Friday.
found out you were doing the second show, he was like, "Listen, I got another clean shirt that I'm putting on for this one."
Yeah. Hopefully he shaved the beard and everything.
Wow, that was a transformation. People don't. That was just amazing.
I told him to do that, by the way. So
that was really. We all appreciate it. And we appreciate everybody that's out there listening, watching, giving us good reviews. Thanks for dropping into the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by Pointsbet. We will see you tomorrow. Have a great night and fly the W.